Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So, I know I've been talking about doing this for a while, but it is finally here. My joint review of Lacuna's Point by Tim Meyer with my friend Blackacre Doe. If you guys have been on my channel for long enough, you know that I love doing buddy reads with Blackacre. He has such an insightful and unique view on so many novels, and we have very, very similar tastes in horror, so it's always so much fun to read books with him, because 9 out of 10 times we tend to align, but I feel like our last two reads, we've definitely had different opinions, which is always very fun for us, because we can just like sit and talk about the things that we loved and the things that we hated, and then obviously give you guys two separate reviews with differing opinions, read from similar people at the same point in time. So this is Tim Meyer's latest release, Lacuna's Point. This is a full-length novel. I believe this month he does have a novella coming out called Rainbow Filth, which I will be reading shortly. But this was his like big novel for the year, and it is about 400 pages, I want to say. Yes, 388 pages. He was gracious enough to send both me and Blackacre free copies. So I love that. I love this cover so much. I love the clock tower is a super important part of this whole story, and it is detailed throughout, even like the like breakers in the prose is a little clock tower. It's really sweet. I loved the attention to detail in that. But without further ado, I'm going to read the back of the book so you guys have a sense of what this story is about. So it says, 3 years ago, Ellie Brower's daughter went missing somewhere in the heart of Virginia. Today, Ellie receives a mysterious text message that leads her to believe her daughter might still be alive. She follows this rabbit hole to the coastal town of Lacuna's Point. But there's something wrong with this place. The town's only constable is zero help and downright hostile. There's a beloved mayor who presides over the town affairs, but no one has ever seen his face. Meanwhile, an enormous clock tower holds something sinister behind its cyclopean eye of time. As Ellie unravels the mystery of her missing daughter, the town begins to change, its geography, its spirit. Slowly, this homely paradise transforms into a nightmarish dream world, and not just the town, the people themselves are slowly evolving into something else. So for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with Tim Meyer is an author I discovered through Nightworms. They sent Wormwood, which is a novel that he did in collaboration with Chad Lutsky, as well as Paradise Club, which is the first book I ever read from him, and I loved Paradise Club. I thought it was funny, I thought it was captivating, I thought it was unique, I thought it was one of those few instances of a novel that is completely cosmic that I really ended up enjoying. I also then read, obviously, Wormwood and Switch House, and Blackacre and I believe about 2 years ago, did a buddy read for Malignant Summer, which is his coming-of-age horror doorstopper of a novel. It's a very big book. And I devoured Malignant Summer. It's one of my favorite coming-of-age stories. It is just so fun. It is so creative. It is so creepy. It has some of my favorite characters from Tim Meyer in it, and I was so thrilled with it. So I was really, really excited to read Lacuna's Point. And earlier in the year, actually at the very, very end of last year, I also read The Sea the Stars, which is another one of his books. Now, one of the things that almost all of his stories have in common is they are all very, very focused on cosmic horror. I am not a fan of cosmic horror, and for almost all of the books that I've read so far, he has done a very, very good job of getting me to enjoy reading cosmic horror. Unfortunately for Lacuna's Point, this is the novel where the cosmic horror was so prominent that for me, I just couldn't get into it. And there are two glaring flaws in this novel that made it just not a book for me. And when I say that, I don't want to say that this was a negative read for me. As always, I do tend to really enjoy Tim Meyer's writing style, and I did like the story that was there. So this, I'm going to just tell you flat out, this was a 3-star read for me. I really went into it expecting it to be closer to a 4 or 5, because that's usually the caliber that I experience from Tim Meyer, but no matter how hard I tried, I just really couldn't get past all of these cosmic elements. I will say one thing that I really do appreciate about Tim Meyer's work is that most of his cosmic horror kind of seems to be within the same realm. I know that he said that at the afterword of this book that the Meyer is a character who's been featured in another one of his works, and I'm not sure what that is, but there is always this kind of aquatic feel to his cosmic entities, which I felt in The Sea, the Stars, as well as Paradise Club, and very, very prominent in Lacuna's Point. And I really love that he's creating his own continuous world with its own mythology. I really do love and enjoy that. However, again, the rules of the cosmic entities, the way things functioned, the just ability to just explain something away because of the cosmic nature of it all is something I don't like about cosmic horror that was very prominent in this novel. That being said, I was, again, able to read the novel. I wouldn't ever consider giving up reading Tim Meyer. I do love his work. I like his characters a lot. And what I found interesting in this book, and this is like the first time I've really experienced this, is I found myself feeling more compelled to read about like the villains in this novel than I did about our main characters. And I think that's because our absolute pivotal main character, Ellie, I was very, very bored with. I didn't love her. I thought she was a very weak character, both as a character designed for this novel and just a character in life. I didn't like her backstory. I found her to be very weak. I found her to be very one-tracked mind, and just kind of boring. And I thought it was odd because she is kind of flanked by characters. Her daughter, Dawn, and her best friend, Kaya, are what appear to be the main characters of the story in the first chapter. And the first chapter is told just through them. And I loved the first chapter. I was really hoping I was going to get more through Dawn and Kaya's eyes. And I felt like Tim Meyer had a lot of room to have added more from the perspective of Dawn and Kaya to really kind of balance out the characters in this novel and their character arcs. And that just wasn't there. We really only got that very first chapter and then one other chapter in the novel that was really told through like Dawn and Kaya's perspectives. And I felt like if we had woven their narratives throughout the whole book, it could have been so much stronger and I would have felt more attentive as a reader. But I just found Ellie to be a very, very flat character. I really didn't care much about her. I didn't particularly like her. I didn't like a lot of the decisions she made, and to me personally, she was in the wrong quite a lot. I will say there's this great scene where Ellie and Mitch, who are now going on a hunt for their daughters, decide to go to a Maryland rest stop, and I'm from like the DC area. I grew up driving between DC and New York, and these characters are driving between New Jersey and Virginia, so I knew exactly where they were. I could see this rest stop in my head, and it was just so well described. Like, it just felt like such a Maryland restaurant, or just such a Maryland rest stop on I-95. It was so well told, and I was just obsessed with it. I thought it was so funny, and he always does stuff like that in his novels where he writes about places that I'm very, very familiar with. He's written about the Jersey Shore a lot, and it's just, the way he writes it, it's so tangible to me because I've been there before, but I also feel like I don't have to think too hard because his descriptions are also so spot on. So I do always appreciate that with Tim Meyer. But this narrative really, this novel, I think, struggled because it paid attention to, in my opinion, the wrong characters. I understand the idea of a novel focused on the concerned parents trying to find the missing children kind of in peril, but I feel like I would have appreciated more of a perspective of the missing children, especially because there was so much going on with them that we, the reader, just have to deduce happened based on kind of context clues, and it would have been so much nicer to just kind of have that narrative told for us because it was a much more intriguing narrative than what we had. To continue with that, I did like some of the side characters. I thought Josh was really, really cool. And I do feel like his storyline was cut short. I thought he was a very interesting character. Him and, what was her, I think her name was Darla. The waitress, I don't quite remember. I think it was Darla. But I thought the two of them were really, really strong characters that were underutilized because I found them very compelling and I found their backstories very intriguing, and I would have loved to know more and had more from them. And I felt like both of their stories were cut kind of short, and we could have expanded upon that and cut maybe some from Mitch and Ellie. And I also just didn't buy Mitch as this kind of hero. He's really a weak character at the beginning, and he kind of builds himself up to be this stronger lead. But to me, I just felt like it wasn't earned. I would have loved to see more from some of the other side characters and kind of have him maybe be less of a central focus. I found his daughter Kaya's story to be really, really tragic and really, really interesting. And again, I would have loved to have more from her perspective versus her father's. And then let me get to like the cosmic nature of it all. I kind of don't like cosmic horror because I feel like it can just explain away plot holes. And I felt like this novel had a few plot holes. And I'm not going to go too in-depth into it, but one of the biggest plot holes for me was the couple that Ellie and Mitch meet after the rest stop. And if you haven't read the novel, I don't want to put any spoilers in, but their whole storyline just felt confusing to me and unanswered, and I didn't quite understand how they ended up where they ended up. Like, I understand why, but I don't understand how. And I feel like it just became like the cosmic nature of it all was like the answer, but that didn't satisfy me. That being said, I found the Mayor Black to be terrifying, super compelling. I don't know why he had Doug Dimmadome from the Fairly Odd Parents voice in my head, but that's just how I heard him speak the whole time, but with like a slightly southern accent. I found every chapter with him to be unnerving, creepy, just visually interesting. I really, really liked him. I totally bought him as this kind of I just bought him as this really corrupt embodiment of evil, and I thought it worked very well for the narrative. And then I absolutely loved the inclusion of the character Foley, who is our like cliche corrupt cop. I thought Tim Meyer did an amazing job of taking talking points from problems in society today and translating them to problems in society in this kind of cosmic world. I thought that was really, really well done. I loved his whole storyline. I loved his unraveling. I loved everything about these villains because they were so well crafted and so devious and so awful, and just their story arcs were just perfect. And it was a shame because I'm looking at these absolutely fantastic villains up against these kind of lackluster leads when we have characters like Kaya, Dawn, and Josh, who I felt like could have stepped in for Ellie and Mitch and been stronger foils to our villains. I do appreciate what Tim Meyer did with Mitch and Ellie's storyline and even Dan's storylines, but I feel like there was a stronger narrative to be told, and it was laid out in these pages, but was kind of put in the background of the narrative instead of the foreground. I feel like this novel focused on the wrong perspectives to tell the same story, if that makes any sense. And then we can get into this whole, like, the super originality of the town of Lacuna's Point and the clock tower and the way that, like, the sleep works, and even just the whole, how do I say this without ruining things? Just the cosmic entity surrounding this whole situation and how it works on a global effect. Very Cthulhu-ish, but also really cool, very original, really fun. I know that Blackacre really loved the mythology behind the way the town functioned, and I absolutely agree with him on that. I thought it was really cool, also quite frightening. And this kind of like nature of like the brainwashing of certain people versus how it affects other people. I just thought the creativity in all of the stuff that made up this book and this narrative was fantastic. And it was just brought down by, in my opinion, focusing on the wrong characters. And the horror in this book was great. There's some real body horror and gore in this book, and it feels very appropriate to what is happening in this almost Stepford Wivesy style town. And I just found it very, very bleak and weird. But then I also had this weird notion where I just didn't understand the mechanics of how some of these cosmic entities worked. I felt like at times, well, I'll talk about the crabs. There are these crabs in the story, and it was under my impression that like only one crab could be utilized for something. but by the end of the book, it seemed that multiple crabs were utilizing certain things at once, and I just don't quite know if I understood how that worked. And I feel like I started focusing too much on the logistics of these crabs and a little less on like the narrative, because I was very confused by the logistics of the crabs. So that was definitely something that bothered me. But this is an interesting story. It's the story of two girls who go missing in this weird town, and their parents receive a text message from each child individually letting them know that they're still alive, and the parents go to the town to investigate. And then obviously crazy things ensue. I like that plot. I love that this book even has what they would call in Cabin in the Woods, like the Harbinger. Like, there is a gas station attendant Harbinger, which I thought was awesome, and he's utilized in such a humorous and dark way. And it really clicks all of the boxes of, like, you're so being warned not to do this, you're so being warned not to go there. All of these characters have so many chances to escape, and they all kind of willfully ignore it for their own purposes. And I wouldn't say that they're selfish purposes, but definitely their own needs. And I loved how everything really just came together at the end. The ending, I believe I liked the ending a little bit more than Blackacre, if I remember correctly. But it did come out kind of quickly, and it was a little hard for me to understand, again, from the cosmic nature of it all. And that's definitely a problem with me, because I don't like cosmic horror. But if you like cosmic horror and you like Tim Meyer's writing, this is going to be really fun for you guys, I think. Again, the world is very compelling. It does feel like its own character itself. It has its own backstory, its own character arc, its own developments. It works in really cool and mysterious ways. It's interdimensional. There's crabs. Like, it's a very unique read. I just feel like I am not the reader for it. I am somebody who loves strong, compelling characters and logic and ground rules in supernatural worlds, in horror. And I feel like this one kind of weaves in and out of the things that I personally like in horror. It has its moments, and then it has times where I'm just like, ooh, definitely not my favorite. It was definitely a little too cosmic-y for me. I feel like if you're a parent, you will probably appreciate this book a lot more than I did. I feel like I had the Pet Sematary effect with this, where I just didn't find Mitch and Ellie super compelling because I'm not a parent, so I couldn't be in their shoes. And I know for Pet Sematary I know wasn't as scary as a lot of people seem to think it is for me. And I attribute that to the fact that I don't have children, so I can't even fathom what some of those people would be going through. But no, this is a solid Tim Meyer book. Not my favorite by far. I definitely preferred Paradise Club and To See the Stars and obviously Malignant Summer, which is just my favorite thing by him, to this. But still a solid Tim Meyer read. Very, very heavy on the cosmic. I really wish it wasn't. And I know Blackacre enjoyed this much, much more than I did. Tim Meyer is his favorite independent author, and he definitely had a lot more fun with this book than I did, and he was really invested in the world and really invested in how everything functioned. I know both me and him were really hoping that Kaya and Dawn would be more prevalent in this narrative than they were, which is a bummer because the opening chapter is so strong and so creepy and so well done, and I really wanted just more from that angle, but we didn't get it. Anyways, definitely make sure to check out Blackacre's channel for this review, for his review. He's definitely going to have a lot more to say, and he could probably speak better on the cosmic side of things, because I know he doesn't hate cosmic horror the way that I do. So definitely check out his channel. I'll have everything linked down below for that. And yeah, I don't know, this is hard because I really love this author, and I really loved moments in this book, but it just didn't hit the mark for me, and I'm so bummed by that. But that's okay. I'll be reading Rainbow Filth soon, and hopefully we will like that a little bit more. I did love the clock tower, though. I thought the clock tower was so cool. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. Next week, I think I will be having a video go up on like Tuesday or Wednesday instead of Monday, just because I'm traveling. But other than that, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah! Bye.